Hello and welcome to Ensemble Conversations. My name is Mark Kilmurry, Artistic Director of the Ensemble Theatre. We're having further conversations today. Last week we were talking to Georgie Parker. In between we've had Easter, and I hope you all had a very quiet Easter, because we all should have had a very quiet Easter. Today we have Kate Raison and Brian Meegan to talk to us. Hello. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Brian.
Hello.
How are you both?
Oh, yeah, we're good. I mean,
How's
we're not bored. We're a little bit bored. I mean, we're not going
Isolated.
anywhere. So,
Yes.
But otherwise, we're fine.
How's isolation suiting you?
Well, I think it's probably good. We're not too bad because at least we're liking it to a tour.
Well, we did go on a tour recently. I mean, the tour we went on for two. That was 3 months together. And
just the two of us
in
really.
isolation. So we've got a lot of experience with it. Put it that way.
That's right. Well, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in two, Jim Cartwright's wonderful play, you were playing a married couple, landlord and landlady, and various other characters as well. And then you go home and you're a married couple. So what's the line? Where do you draw the line there? Where do you go, okay, this is work and this is life, if there is a line?
I think the line's pretty clear. I mean, the thing is, I think it's funny. The more that we did the tour, it became clearer and clearer. I think that we both go into showtime. We do that sort of together and independently. And when the curtain comes down, independently and together, we go, that's it. The show's now finished. But yeah, so the line is actually pretty clear, and therefore I think, which is why it worked as well as it did.
I think, performances are very different to, say, perhaps rehearsal rooms or I don't know, working in some other way together. Like putting a piece of IKEA furniture together. It doesn't work for us, really. It doesn't work.
No.
Too many differences. But
That's very good.
Well,
Yes.
It's true.
But being out on the stage together, it just, I don't know, everything changes and performance is performance, and you just go, oh, it was kind of perfect.
Yeah, it worked well.
And luckily, we get along quite well together, and that's why we're quite practiced at doing things like staying in the house, just the two of us together.
Yes, well, IKEA furniture will test any marriage. I mean, that's that's divorce for anybody, really. I mean,
And directions.
Well, no, it's also Katie has a problem with directions. Like she hates. I love directions. When I buy something new, I will look at the directions. Instructions. And Katie goes, don't bother with the instructions. I go, but I like instructions. So therefore, I'm very good with IKEA furniture. Katie, if she brings me in a cup of tea, that would be great.
But there's a difference, isn't there, though, with the rehearsal, like you say, Katie. I think the rehearsal process and performing, because performing, it's 2 hours an evening or a matinee, and that's it. But when it's in the rehearsal room, it's all day, and you're learning lines, and you're trying to work out a character. So presumably you're taking that home with you then, because there's the two of you, and the two of you on stage, but there's also two of you at home. So where do you cut off? Where do you say, you know what, we can't do any more lines, or, there must be a balance there somewhere?
Well, yeah, I think we have to find that balance, because I think in many ways, Bri would continue that on for longer than I would. He would live it longer. So he would come home and want to discuss it and talk about it. And I would go there for a small amount of time. Then after that, I need to switch off, because otherwise I can't go back in the next day. My brain doesn't work as... He's probably a lot faster at picking those things up. I'm a little bit slower. I need a little bit more time. And so, yeah, we worked it out in rehearsals. And
but
as you well know, Mark, when we didn't work it out, we worked it out in front of you.
And, yeah.
Which was never exactly the right way to do it.
No, but we sometimes sort of reverted back to a married couple rather than two actors working together. Although I have to say that the rehearsal period is certainly more challenging. There's no doubt about it. That's much, much harder. I mean, just because you're both feeling stressed, as you say, Mark, because you're trying to learn lines and remember them, but because rehearsal is a stressful time, you know, and kind of it should be, and there's a lot that you're trying to work out. So yeah, that was the time that was harder to cut off, and that was very clearly we had to say to each other, okay, no more talk of the play today.
I remember the rehearsal of doing that, because we did it sort of twice. The first time at the ensemble theatre run, and then 2.5 years later, 2 years later, then it was the tour. I remember the rehearsals being joyful, mostly because you both work so hard and you bring such a lot to the rehearsal room, and also because we all know each other well, but because you do have that short change, and you can talk to each other in a way that two actors probably wouldn't be able to talk to each other, because you know each other obviously so well. So it was sort of a very positive, for me, it was a very positive thing, and I just love going into that rehearsal room because it felt like sort of three friends having fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it creates, I think what it creates too is it creates an enormous amount of freedom in that respect, and to me, that's what the rehearsal room should always feel like. It should always feel, and hopefully in a lot of the plays that I've worked on, it does feel this way. But it's that idea of a great deal of freedom, so that the sense of creativity can come out, and also safety, so that there's this enormous sort of blanket of safety around you in the rehearsal room, so that you can take that leap, and you can really challenge yourself as an actor, because you just can't do that once you're on stage.
No.
The gig's up, basically. You've got to get it right every night. Whereas in the rehearsal space, you can mess around with that, and I felt that certainly with the two rehearsal, we had a great blend of that. It was fantastic.
I mean, I think as Mark was saying, there was certainly a second hand that felt, no doubt about that. And that allowed us to, and also the fact that there's enormous trust. I mean, you always want to trust your other actor, your director in the rehearsal room anyway, but there was an added level because we're partners. But remember, Mark, one of the reasons we work as hard as we do is because of fear.
Yes, right, never forget the fear.
Never forget that. You know,
actor
that fear is an extraordinary great motivator in terms of the fact we're going to be on stage and we're going to have to do this position. So how about we get this right?
Yeah, and I was just, because the nature of two, for those who don't know, it's two main characters, but you each played several other characters also, 5 or so each. So when you're usually doing just one character in a play, you have a starting point and you have time. What was the spring point for playing all those different characters? Did you just have to latch onto something and go with it, or was it a bit of experiment?
Well, I mean, it was. I think we both had to just latch onto certain things to make each character differentiate from the other. But I have to say, this is really where your director comes into play really clearly, because Mark, you were able to see the differences more than we were in a way. You were able to say, I think that's working. I think that's a good place to go. And it could be something as small as that you want to bring in, or you decide, either of us decide, or we decide together the way that character may walk, obviously. And you start with something, and then you think, I think this is working, I might go somewhere. Like there was a voice I found, the old man in the character, but I didn't find that right to the end for rehearsal. And it was just something I was messing around with, and then all of a sudden I went, oh, this is great. Not only because he sounds like an old man, but also the fact because it was so different to the other. So but I think the outside eye for an actor at that point is really, really important.
Yeah, and also obviously clearly too the writing in the script.
And of course.
The wonderful thing about that particular script was that those characters was beautifully defined within the writing. But there were also things that, like as Bryce said, as an actor you kind of miss, and sometimes you kind of go in like a bull at a gate and try to get something really fast, and that takes me back to the fact that I'm a bit slower than some, and it takes me a long time.
But I think I don't think it's slow, Kay. I think it's more the fact that actors want to latch onto something quickly, so they're safer. Yeah, what you're prepared to do is prepared for. Wait for it to happen.
Yeah, I
think that's more what
sit out in that zone, which is not very comfortable.
Yeah, it's not the black or the white zone; it's the grey zone. Yeah. And grey's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. And in terms, Katie, just coming up, without giving too much away, you're doing a play. We hope you're doing a play called Killing Katie.
I really hope we're doing
Confessions of a Book Club later on this year, towards in October time. Can you tell us anything about that character that you're playing?
Well, at the moment, again, I haven't really decided, but she's a very complicated, interesting character, which, of course, I straight away find really exciting to be able to work on and work with. It's a fabulous cast. We've done a reading, and we've done a workshop, and there were a lot of things that were talked about during the time of the workshop, which was just fabulous. It's such a fabulous thing, and we felt so privileged, the actors and the writer and in the room to be able to, and the director, to be able to actually sit down so early on and discuss a script and pull the script apart to a degree and really have a think about those characters. So I actually think from that process there will be some changes that will come out of that will really ground all of these characters into such truthful and honest people that you would actually, everybody will be able to relate and look at and go, I know that person, which I think is so important considering the idea of the fact that we are in a book club. And I mean, so many people, I think I'm one of the only people I know that is not a member of a book club. I mean, especially in my age group and, you know, even younger, but it's that thing where it's just such a strong thing now that people talk about it. You know, my book club's Tuesday night, my book club's Wednesday night. No, I can't because I've got my book club. People are Zooming their book clubs now.
Yes, that's right.
So
Zooming book clubs.
It's fabulous, and I'm so looking forward to it, and hoping that we're able to do it.
It's a great cast, and Frankie Savage directing and Tracy Trinder's play as the writer. It's laugh out loud funny, and it's really interesting too, talking about those themes of a gathering of women and what they talk about, and the undercurrents of that play is quite extraordinary. I'm really looking.
And also
forward
giving them voices, but also the idea of working out. What I think is so wonderful about it is you work without giving anything away. Yeah. You're working out why they react the way they do, why they say the things they say, and why they are the way they are. And I think that's really important, and that's what I really enjoyed about Tracy's script.
Yeah, me too.
And one of the reasons we really miss the ensemble is the fact that either of us don't get the chance to perform lately in that theatre. And it'd be better if we do. I think we'll be happier because I'm just sort of performing around the house now. Katie, various speeches from Shakespeare's I did a long time ago. I drew out Puck the other day.
I heard them all.
You heard them all.
Send them in. Send them in. We're asking for speeches.
Sorry, what was that?
We're asking for speeches. Send them in.
Yeah. I was doing Puck, and to Katie and the cat. They've seen them before, but at least it was a full house. I
go, look how I go, swifter than an arrow from Cupid's bow. That's Puck.
Very good. If we shadows have offended, think but this.
Amended.
You could do a double act.
That's right. Puck double act.
Anyway, let's not go there.
Brian, recently you performed with Stevie Rogers in the classic Neil Simon comedy The Odd Couple, which was one of my favourite experiences, having directed it and watching it. And there are certain plays that I mean, most plays mean different things to me, but there are certain plays that I love to watch again and again, and it's a pleasure watching. And The Odd Couple was one of them. That process for you, American accent, Felix the obsessive, how did that go, creating that character, and how was that in terms of from creating in rehearsal room to performing nightly?
It was extremely challenging, to say the least. I think Stevie Rogers, everyone in that cast, and that was a really superb cast.
Amazing, yeah.
I think we underestimated, or I certainly underestimated, how difficult the actual play would be. You kind of think, oh, well, it's The Odd Couple. It's stood up to the test of time. We should be able to, but it's much, much more difficult than that. It's razor sharp, and you just can't get it wrong. Also, there's a reason why it is. It's probably his most famous play is because it's so well written. It really is. I mean, it's a lesson in writing in many ways, and certainly in comedy. And comedy has come from plays like that, certainly to where we are now.
Yeah.
And yes, there were really specific things that have to happen with the accent. About the New York accent in that particular period is quite different to the New York accent now. And also, I put this pressure on myself. I had a sort of an expectation, or there was an expectation of what Felix Unger might be, who he was. There is a bit of there's something that comes with it. So I felt I wanted to be everything it should be, perhaps. I don't know. And that got down to all sorts of things in terms of look and stuff. And it was without doubt one of the most challenging roles I've ever done. I was surprised that would be the case. But it was exhausting because they just never shut up, basically.
Yeah.
But it was really, as you've described before in certain plays, it's rock and roll theatre.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Once it starts, it is a roller coaster.
Yeah, and Georgie last week was talking about challenging herself in roles that she chooses. I guess that's one for you. And for you, Kate, we did Mary Stuart those years back, and I remember you saying this is a real challenge for me. I mean, you did it brilliantly, but again, it's one of those you're sort of on a knife edge while you're in the rehearsal room, and you're not sure if you can put it off or not.
That's exactly right. That was mine. Very much so. You just always wonder whether or not it. I've had a couple of roles like that in my career so far, and they're always the ones that you never forget. But they're also the ones that you lose sleep over, because you actually think that maybe I can't do this. I've bitten off more than I could chew. But no, it was just a fabulous experience, Mary Stuart, and.
Beautiful play.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful play. And I was just going back recently because I was just posting a few things on my Facebook page, and I found this wonderful photo of me in costume doing Mary with my long hair and the hair I always wanted.
Yeah, that's right. It was your hair though, wasn't it?
Happy though to keep it on my head.
Yeah, that's right. Keep your head on the
yeah.
That was your hair though, wasn't it, Katie? Was it your hair, that long thing? I can't remember. No.
You don't remember?
Oh, it was I do now. Yeah.
I don't know. It was a beautiful wig that was
very
made
well
for me.
done, wasn't it?
It was a beautiful wig that was crafted for me, and it was very long hair. It was just fabulous. But aside from that, it was this joyous moment where she's flying herself around the stage and having a wonderful moment when she was running around.
Maybe I could use that wig. I would like that wig.
It'd be
we could
good.
Find somewhere to work that in. I think
you just don't need a wig.
Well, we could do the.
Anyway.
One thing I did want to say about, and I want to say this about The Odd Couple. One of the most beautiful things about that, I know it was a laugh a minute and all of those things, but the one thing that really was memorable for me during that show was those poignant moments and a lot of pathos that was put into that, and the feelings that you had for both those characters, for both Oscar and Felix, and also the two women in that. It was just gorgeous, and
it was surprising too.
It was very surprising, and it was probably there in the script, but perhaps not always in every production you see. But it was certainly there in your production.
Well, our director was extremely demanding.
Oh, really? Who was that?
He was very tough. He made it pretty clear. He said, "I just don't want you guys to be funny. You're going to have to
that's right.
Out.
No comedy.
I don't want to see any of your old tricks." So, and we went, "What? No tricks? Oh, right."
No comedy. It was hard, I think, in that start. For once, we got that idea that it wasn't a comedy. It was fine. People think I'm just interviewing people so that they can talk to me about being a director on Ensemble Conversations. It's not true, honestly, folks. Just because you've both worked at the Ensemble a lot over the years, you've also had careers outside TV, film, theatre, in other places. I'm just wondering what, any favourite moments of being at the Ensemble that come to mind, putting you on the spot, but anything that comes to mind that sticks out?
Look, I always have one character, which is really strange. Was the play we did together, Mark. and it was where I played a Nazi.
Oh yeah, the act.
The act, and you and Danny Mitchell in it, and I there was, I mean, I thought there were bits of that, but it was directed by Sandra. She always wanted to do that play for a long time.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, she felt it was extremely confronting, which it was.
It was.
There was a scene in there that I had to do as the Nazi. I don't know. It was I always wanted to play a character like that. I always I don't know why. It's just a really scary character to play, and it's a place you feel like I would really like to go there and see what that feels like. And of course, then we had the full regalia. So I remember the first time I wore that uniform, and it was incredibly powerful. It was so powerful, like there's no thought you would even leave the theatre in that uniform.
No.
Yeah, it's not something you would even consider.
No.
So I suppose for me, having played that role, it still stays as one of my favourite.
Yeah, I agree, and I played opposite you, sitting at. I remember sitting opposite that table every night, and you had this long speech about horrendous things, and it was so powerful, and so
it was it really was one of those powerful plays. Just get out of the way, just say the word.
But the reality of it that you brought to it, the human side of it, is the scary bit.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's what you brought. And Katie, how about you?
I have so many memories, most of them excellent from moments, but I also have memories of things that have gone pretty, like strangely wrong, I suppose.
We want to hear those. Those are the ones we're interested in.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of think that people, that moment where you're coming out on stage. I did many years ago. I did Barefoot in the Park at the Ensemble. It was one of the first shows I did way back when Hayes was directing. And I actually took over the role from another girl who was playing the role at the time and needed to leave. And I stepped in as Corey. That's how long ago it was. Corey's the young girl in the play. And I remember back in the old days, the theatre used to go very, very dark. So when you had a blackout, it was black. And the lights were out and there was virtually nothing. So you really had to feel your way onto stage. And we came on for the beginning of the second act. And or the beginning of the third act, I can't remember. And I tripped on something as I came into the stage. I managed to sit on about 4 people's laps in the front row before getting myself up and standing like nothing had happened in the corner, looking upward the stairs as though nothing had happened. And the lights came up.
Brilliant. I love it.
And I just remember thinking, there must be about 4 or 5 people along that way that have either had me face down on top of them, rolling over. It was
And I thought it was part of the
that's
action.
That's the magic of theatre, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what you want when you go to the theatre in the front row.
Yeah, that's why you sit in the front row. You want all of that. That's right.
Exactly. You can't get that at home sitting on the couch. You've got to go to live theatre to make that.
That's right. And you really have to go to either the ensemble or perhaps the stables, but really you're not going to get it anywhere else.
I have to say, the only other thing I'm going to throw in is I have to say the Normal Conquest, because, the Normal Conquest is, I felt like when that came along, I thought, as an actor, you probably get a chance to do this one, if you get a chance. And I got a chance, so you kind of go, tick that one off. That went well.
And just for those who don't know, Norman Conquest are 3 plays over a weekend, and it's so you played Reg in all 3 plays at different times of the day. Yeah, it was a jigsaw and a wonderful piece to do. Yeah,
it was mammoth.
It was,
and that was exhausting, I bet.
Yeah, it was. It's certainly, I've never seen so many actors walk around rehearsing for such a days, going, I'm not sure this is anyway.
And now at this time, all we long for is a bit of exhaustion.
Yeah, that would be great.
Absolutely.
For things to get back to normal as they can.
Yeah.
And look, we're very lucky in the respect that we have a really lovely house to be in, and all of those things.
Yeah.
And so we understand and we feel very privileged for that.
And our kids are healthy and they're fine.
Yeah.
And so we're
also in a situation where our industry is
it's gone.
It's right.
Gone, and it's devastating.
It has.
As for a lot of other people in a lot of other industries as well.
Yeah, that's right. And we hope we'll get back soon to, and people are donating their tickets, which is absolutely wonderful. So instead of getting a refund, they're saying,
I've heard that.
keep the donation.
It's keeping us extraordinary that at this time that our audience members are thinking that far ahead, and I think it's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, it keeps us here. Simply, it keeps us.
Absolutely. That's it. Without it, that's it. Otherwise, we'd be gone.
Just before I let you go, in the future, when we're all back and we're all in front of audiences and we can all touch each other and elbow and fist bump and hug, would you work together again?
Will we?
We'll work together again.
Oh, yeah. Well, we swore off at the end of the tour.
Did you?
No, I don't know. I think.
Ask us after two months of this.
Well, I suppose I think that we realised that we come to the end of the tour and we sort of, even standing on stage, and I think we both realised, will we ever do this again, and how special the experience was because of the play, because we were on tour. There were so many things that made that very special. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we will probably work together again.
Depends on the play.
It depends on the play. It would really have to depend on the play.
Yeah.
And Katie will just have to take more of my direction.
Yeah,
and
sure.
If she's not prepared to do.
Of course.
I'd work again in a heartbeat.
Great. Great. We've just got a couple of questions coming from viewers. So Ben's just going to shout these out. Ben here from Damn Good, who's doing all this for us. Let's go, Ben.
First question is for Kate. It's from Stephanie. She wants to know, how did you get into the industry? What was your start?
Well, my start in the industry really was, it was a play that I did at the Ensemble. That was my first professional production with Sandra Bates. It was called A Marginal Farm. I did that, and then I graduated from drama school after that. And then I basically just became a jobbing actor. I did anything and everything that I could. I did a film and a few other bits and pieces in television. And then I was cast as Kathy Hayden in A Country Practice. And that really sort of, for me, sort of started to cement the fact that I was able to do both television and theatre. So I really started in theatre and was trained in theatre. But once I did A Country Practice for 3 years, it really, helped sort of push me along. And I've basically been a jobbing actor ever since. So, yeah.
Which leads to our next question, which is from Steve. And he asks, do you prefer theatre or television?
I love both mediums. Theatre is my first love, always has been, always will be. And there's just something that is so beautiful about the immediacy of theatre and the time that you get. I've always been one of those people that's really enjoyed the rehearsal process as much as I enjoy the performance process. In actual fact, I could probably just rehearse for 6 months and then just do the show once. Because I really enjoy that research and all the thinking about it and putting it all together. Brian's completely the opposite.
What about
you, Brian? I don't mind the rehearsal, but no.
But I think theatre is probably my first love, but I absolutely love television. I've just recently come off doing a show for luckily before this all shut everything down, and I love the speed and I love the intensity and I love that rush that you get from it. It's fantastic. And the people are great. But, yeah, theatre is probably my first love.
And
I'm the same. Oh, look, I'm the same. I really am the same. As I say, they're different disciplines. That's the thing. They really are. The thing is, I think just to be grateful when you're able to do both. I think that you might miss the other one. But when you get a chance to do both, you're really in a fortunate position. I mean, shooting television sometimes, or even a commercial for that matter, and it's a big commercial, there's an enormous crew, there's $1 million crew there, and you're the only one where all the money's been at you, shot at you, that responsibility is really exciting, as television is. Sometimes it's all got to be done, it's got to be done because it's all about money. Well, that kind of responsibility of getting it right is exciting. Also creating great work and the intimacy that you can get on in television. But of course, theatre, if you really want to know what it's all about. Theatre's kind of where it's at, because the fact that you have to concentrate at the rate you do and remember those lines to be out there, it's really keeping the ball in the air. So theatre is an extraordinary thing.
Yeah. We have one more question just before we go.
This question's for Brian, and it comes from Jenny, and she says, you've been an assistant director to Mark at Ensemble on 3 productions. What's it like having to work with Mark?
Don't answer that question. Cut.
Oh, look, it was great. I mean, I think I learned a lot as I did it because I wanted to learn some stuff. And I think the best thing that Mark taught me when I was doing it was that director has to be patient. And unfortunately, I'm a little impatient. You know, I would say, I want this now. And he said, no, he said, yeah, well, he said, Mark would just say, no, you're going to just have to wait and just see where it comes. So having said that, you know, I also had some brilliant ideas, which Mark decided not to go with. Now, he was quite clearly wrong.
That's right.
I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's an extraordinary position to be in. I've assistant directed a couple of times, and it's great. It's you know what it is. What I love about it is that it's collaboration, and I love collaboration in what we do. Yeah. I love in our business where you should never be isolated. You can collaborate, you can talk the ideas out. I think that's one of the best things that we have, which is why the rehearsal room is such a unique place. You can be gloriously wrong and you can collaborate. And being as an assistant director, from that perspective, rather being on that side than the theatre side, it was great, really good.
Yeah, and there were 3 amazing productions we worked on: Casanova, and Skylight, and Red. I mean, what a great ensemble of plays.
Red was an extraordinary.
Quite special, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was really also just because I think we all got into it and realised the consumables on that play.
The paint, lots of paint.
The paint, the canvases, what was required. Everybody had to get up and help just to make that production. And it was just a great piece of writing. It was just. You know, the writing was just extraordinary, about an extraordinary character. Yeah, it was great.
And I agree. A team effort in the rehearsal room. I like that collaboration idea, and just talking and chatting and getting things narrowed down to what you want it to be. Katie and Brian, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been great to talk to you, and thank you for your time, because you're busy isolating yourselves. You can go and isolate some more.
I got to go and clean the house again.
Yeah. Well, I actually have things I've got to do.
Yeah,
I'm very busy.
He actually does.
Brian's working.
Isolation, I get a lot done.
I'm happy.
Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the same room again and being in a rehearsal room again or on our stage. Be safe, and thank you so much again for talking to us.
A pleasure.
Pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
See ya.